Three, two, one. We are live, guys. This is going to be a blast. Wow, I have three of the smartest people in crypto here with me.
And me.
I was about to say the same thing.
I'm the fourth person. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have Dan Akston on the line. He is a podcast pioneer, and he is the host of the Crypto Show. And the Crypto Show, he's talk about somebody who's been around crypto for a while. He started that podcast in 2013. And
well, I didn't start it. I was part. It happened through the planning of the very first Texas Bitcoin conference. It was Harlan Dietrich, the owner of Brave New Books, that actually started that. And then I just joined the team. I was there for the naming of it. And then slowly but surely, I just started taking the leadership role of it. And now it's
there
just,
shall be only one.
Yeah.
Well, who else is on the show is, of course, Todd Lewis, chief engineer, techie. Usually he has some interesting T-shirts for Epic Cash, and we have Max Freeman, founder. And I just want to start the show by saying that most people know that I discovered Max and Epic Cash about 7 months ago when he came on my show, because I put on these shitcoin trials and he stepped up to the plate. And what was going to be a 45-minute conversation turned into a 2.5-hour interview. And I got out my notebook to start, being a student. And it was just back then, it was just kind of like this fire hose of information, but it all seemed to make sense. And so I've been in Epic Cash and talking about it now for 7 months, and am an obvious Epic fanboy. But then last week, Max posted in their Telegram chat the very first interview that he ever did. And that happened to be on your show, Dan. And it was pre-launch. So that would have been what, Max, 2018, I think? 2019. Okay, it was pre-launch. And you went on and you dropped that in there. And I swear, I listened to it last week in the evening. And then I'm getting a little bit of feedback, I think, Dan, maybe from maybe it's just, there we go. That's better. And I started listening to it, and I listened to it once, and then the next morning I got up and listened to it again, and I was just like, damn, it is like Max is so darn consistent. He was saying the same things on my show 7 months ago. He says the same things, since then. We've all heard it, but I really encourage everyone to go down in my show notes, and it's down there, and it'll say Max's first interview ever. And the Crypto Show, but just go listen to it, because if you have not been anything,
and for what it's worth, they're identical to our first technical discussions on the implementation side. From years ago.
That's good to know too. But if not anything, Max, you are super consistent, and so thank you for dropping that and then exposing me to the Crypto Show. I didn't know it existed. I don't know a lot of shows exist because I'm pretty focused. So Dan reached out to you and asked if you'd mind coming on for a sequel. And just really, the way I look at this is, as much as anything, where Epic was pre-launch. It was nothing to where it is today. We can talk about that. But at the same time, so that's the progress report part. But at the same time, I know that you are very tuned in to privacy, and that you have some questions or potential concerns about our tech. And I was like, perfect. Todd Lewis is the perfect person to be able to have on here, because he designed everything. So I have found that when anybody kind of attacks Mimblewimble, and I'm not saying you're attacking, you're expressing rightful concerns because it's out there. So this is a show for you to literally ask anything. This is open mic. And let's talk this through. And hopefully by the end of it, your questions are answered. I'm recording this because Todd, I love it when you talk. So I want to record it and maybe go back and get some snippets,
Maybe you can talk to my wife. So.
I have been.
I'll tell her. I'll tell her you said hi, both of you.
Sorry about that. Okay, Dan. Let's open it up. Hello,
His
Dan.
mother's lovely too.
So actually, Max was not our first talk about Mimblewimble. We actually interviewed Andrew Polstra and Peter Willa when the paper first dropped, and
wow.
I have suspicion that it is Peter Willa actually that is the writer of that paper. But it was some pretty interesting stuff. You could probably go back in our archives and find that. It's Andrew Polstra, Peter Willa, and we're talking about Mimblewimble. We may have Cody Wilson or something on there. We were broadcasting out of his the Ghost Gunner studios is what we called it back then.
Nice.
So I think you can find some pretty interesting stuff there. And I know the guy who actually organized that for me, a guy named Brian Deary, is seeking out some other Mimblewimble professionals for me to ask questions of. I reached out to Andrew Polstra and he said that he didn't really have time. So I've got another call going out to Peter Willa and see if he'll come in and talk about this whole paper by what I think his name is Ivan Bogata or something like that, Bogate, or I don't know how to say it.
Is that the Mimblewimble hit piece, Max?
That's from 2019, and let us know when you're going to go on, because we can put together something substantive and comprehensive in response. There was a response piece from the Grin developers about a week after that that starts with the first sentence, which is a flawed misstatement type of premise, garbage in, garbage out, and it gets worse from there. So, whoever had a financial interest in seeing a red candle on that day achieved it, and whoever had an interest in presenting FUD on an ongoing basis has made use of it. And then, the left hook is, what about this article? And then the right hook response is, but look at this other article. And then that's the end of the story. And for certain people,
but Max, how about we just listen to the concerns one at a time and talk about them?
Amen.
Well,
I found
sure.
I just read the article earlier, and it seemed like very plausible stuff. I mean,
but there's no addresses.
In the
linkability.
Let's hear him out, man.
Sure.
The linkability issue looks absolutely legitimate, but
I agree. I agree for what it's worth. I just don't think it's very important for reasons I can explain.
And at the end of the article, if you read the end of the article, he's saying that if you're adding additional, obfuscation to hide the linkability, then it's not really an issue. That Mimblewimble is really good at hiding the amounts that are being sent, so that no one knows what the amount is that's being sent. But he goes on to say that there are ways of getting in between the chain on Dandelion and things like that. So I don't know what you guys have done with Epic, and do you have ways of stopping the attacks that he's taking? I mean, legitimately, you should look at what he has to say and just use that to improve.
Oh no, we looked at it the day that it came out, and we've had a lot of internal discussions about it, and I'm happy to talk about it.
Well, hold on, Todd, because I think that giving this more credit than it is worth dignifies something.
Stop being such a baby.
No, listen.
Stop being such a baby.
I'm looking at it right now, and it says, I was able to uncover the exact addresses of senders and recipients, and no, Mimblewimble does not have addresses. And so then points, 4, 5, 6, and 7 through this thing that we've had to respond to 5,000 times now say, if you know the address and blah, blah,
I have good,
blah,
Max. I have good news. Max, I have good news. I know this article has gotten on your last nerve. Okay, but fortunately, since I don't give a shit about other people's opinion, I've got lots of patience left in the tank, man. Let me handle this.
Let's defer to you, Todd. I want to hear Dan's concerns. Max, let's let Todd.
I'm going to get a phone call. So
Yeah, you're gonna get a phone call, and it's gonna be me. It's gonna be me saying, "Let Todd talk." I love you, Max, but yeah, Todd, take it over.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the article was overblown, right? And I think people took it to mean more than it actually meant, because what the article does is just observe that even with Mimblewimble fully hiding the transaction amounts, you can still see the transactions, right?
Right.
Okay, well, it's a blockchain, yeah. Like, I mean, that's in the white paper for Mimblewimble. It's an obvious property of the protocol. Okay.
Right.
So I don't think they're really pointing out anything novel there. And then the observation on top of that is, if you want your transactions hidden from flow analysis, right, where you have like a simple transfer chain from mining to one recipient, well, you know how much it is, right? You don't need to see the amounts in the ledger to know what the quantity of coin is if there's only ever been one transfer in its lifetime. Okay, well, that's true. And again, it's in the original white paper. They're just making an observation about the protocol. Where people take that point too far is to say Mimblewimble doesn't do these things. And I don't think that's really a fair way to spin it, because whereas Monero, for example, has all kinds of code in the core protocol for swizzling and building anonymization, because we have Mimblewimble, all of that comes out of the box, right? And so I think a lot of this criticism stems from an expectation gap. That, like, if you come from a Monero world, you're accustomed to a world where the core chain has to solve these problems for you. And I think what they don't appreciate is, like, all of the shell games that Monero puts all this code and engineering and effort into doing, like, you could just do them with the Epic wallet, right? It's standard functionality. It's a different model. Okay. So it's absolutely true that if you have a very simple transfer chain and there's no network of transfers to build up a privacy network, then you can do transaction analysis on the chain. That's absolutely true, right? Is it important? Well, it might be important if you're naive about it. And we've talked about extending the wallet to, like, add little scripts to let people, like, join cooperative transfer networks to build these obfuscating networks to leverage Mimblewimble more. But also, it just works out of the box. If it's important to you, then it's trivial to make happen for yourself, right? And so there's a fundamental question of, where does responsibility lie for this? Is it something that we should complicate the core code with, or is it functionality that we should give to the users? And the argument that Epic doesn't do this, that's true. It's in the white paper, okay? Therefore, Epic is not secure. Like, what kind of nonsense is that, right? And that's why this paper gets on Max's last nerve. It's people who don't understand the nuance of the paper have been going around saying, oh, Mimblewimble doesn't work. Well, that's practically the opposite of what the paper says. The paper doesn't contest at all that Mimblewimble does its job of hiding the quantities, making the quantities opaque, and giving you this fundamental tool you can use to build whichever transaction networks you want. And the Epic chain does what it's supposed to do in that regard, as do the other Mimblewimble chains. And that's what I would say about the paper, right? So there's that true but kind of trivial part, and then there's the way that people spin it, which is like really, really not true.
Is it feasible to, I mean, you have all these extra features in it. Is it feasible to go ahead and add a zero knowledge in as well, or would that even work?
It's not apples to apples on, like, what ZK Snark does, right? Because massive parts of what ZK Snark does, Mimblewimble just makes obsolete.
Yeah, hold on, Todd, because I went over this with Diego recently. So when you say zero knowledge, are you talking ZK Snark? Or are you talking ZK Stark? like which part of zero knowledge-ness are we concerned about here? Because you know, are we talking that nobody can, the people can verify the validity of the math without knowing the secrets involved, like that sense of zero knowledge? Or, you know, here we kind of have to get into the weeds.
I mean, creating large anonymity sets to hide who the parties are that are transacting. So Mimblewimble already
right. So
hiding the amounts. Why not just use ZK to go ahead and obfuscate the?
But you don't need you don't need a 120-page white paper to do that once you have Mimblewimble. Okay.
You want to elaborate on that, Todd?
Yeah, well, this goes back to the point. The Epic wallet does this out of the box, right? There is no code to be written for people to do this. It already works. It worked from day one because Mimblewimble means that all you have to do is transact with somebody and you have an anonymity pool, right? Like, you know, it's a discussion of hammers and nails, and we have a nuclear bomb, right? I mean, with Mimblewimble, so many of the problems that you're solving, for example, in the ZK Snark white paper, which is a beautiful piece of pre-Mimblewimble engineering, right? So many of the problems that they're trying to solve just aren't problems in a Mimblewimble world. All you have to do is hide the transfer graph. And because Mimblewimble gives you such a strong primitive to do that with, there is no code to be written. It's just a matter of generating the transaction patterns on the chain to do it. And you can have all the anonymity you want to synthesize, right? And it works out of the box and has worked out of the box from day one in Epic.
Yeah, and you asked why don't we use I'll just say ZK Snark. We did evaluate everything else that was on the market at the time, and so if you want to sign a transaction on a low power device, so let's say mobile, you just can't do that with the heavy computation approaches like Snarks. So we would be excluding huge segments of the market, and really,
yeah, but
you know,
but they're also just clearly inferior to Mimblewimble.
Well, there's that.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, Max, if the shoe were on the other foot and it were lower cost and it did work on smaller
then
devices,
we would use it for sure. Yeah,
I think I would still fight you on it.
Oh, no, that's what I meant. If it had existed at the time and it was an easier lift to use that and move to Mimblewimble later, whatever. I mean, the Overton window of, you know.
Okay, maybe, but I'm talking about as an engineering discussion, right?
Sure.
If you had come to me and said, I want to use ZK Snark because it works on $5 devices, I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
Right? It's the inferior solution. The proof of Mimblewimble you can do in 2 pages. The ZK Snark white paper is 130 pages. And it's not as powerful. It's just an inferior algorithm. In my personal.
I'm glad you're on, Todd.
and what are the top 3 reasons of why you believe it's inferior?
The totality of Mimblewimble is obvious. Right? ZK Snark is a really fine-grained collection of a lot of intricate machinery to solve a lot of different micro problems in the privacy universe, whereas Mimblewimble just makes them all, it just obviates the issues. It makes them non-issues because the amounts are truly opaque. It solves the problem categorically instead of having to go and try to play whack-a-mole with the individual manifestations of the problem.
So from what I understand, Mimblewimble is all of the transactions are counted as one transaction per block. So every transaction that happened, explain how Mimblewimble obfuscates.
Mimblewimble is a mathematical technique, and it uses associativity in a way that's similar to public key cryptography to provide a proof that for any transaction, the quantity of coins that enters the transaction is equal to the quantity of coins that leave the transaction. But it does this without revealing the quantities. Okay. So a traditional blockchain like Epic or any other non-smart contract chain only has two categories of transactions on it. There's minting, right, where coins are created, and then there's transfers. It's a monetary chain, right? Well, the minting has to be public and the transfers are opaque. So because of Mimblewimble, you know that you know how many coins were created because the minting is public, and we have our emission curve, and this is the Bitcoin emission curve, right? 21 million coins, et cetera. So you see the coins being created, and then all the other stages where the coins are transferred around, you have mathematical confidence that no new coins are being created, but you have no knowledge of the quantities. The quantities are completely opaque. And so when you have the recipient and the UTXO from a transaction, you don't know how many coins are going left and how many coins are going right. And as a result, in the next transaction, you don't know what the inputs are to this one. And so you certainly don't know how much is going left and how much is going right, because you don't even know what's coming into it. It's completely obscured. And when the quantities are completely obscured, many of the micro problems that ZK Snark has engineered to solve, they're just not even problems anymore. It's a global solution to the privacy problem because you just don't have visible quantities anymore. And so it makes that earlier generation of engineering mostly obsolete because the problems that they're solving just are not a problem in a universe where you can't see the quantities.
How does Epic differ from Grin? And obviously that's so the whole article has nothing to do with Epic Cash. It's actually about Grin and
Right.
their use of Mimblewimble anyway. I think at the end of the article he said, well, you could use zero cash or whatever to be able to better hide the inputs or whatever from or whoever it is that's transacting.
Right.
Excuse me.
Right.
How does Epic differ from that? Have you
sure.
guys?
So Epic started as a Grin fork, and we have a lot of appreciation for the Grin community and their engineering. It's a great code base, and we appreciate it. We made several changes. We added a bunch of testing for one on the back end. No one sees that. That's my personal favorite change because I'm the one who has to maintain the code base with the team. But then we made 3 substantive changes. We added a developer tax to fund development. We changed the emission curve. So the emissions in Epic are Bitcoin style, right? So they're declining over time and they're deflationary. And it's actually an exact copy of the Bitcoin emission curve. And then the final one is, and these are the original changes in version 1. The final one is we made the proof of work algorithm customizable and configurable. So the current policy is that we have 3 proof of work algorithms. And that one's a non-traditional choice, and some people find it interesting. That's probably the most adventurous of the choices that we did. And go ahead.
You're on mute, Dan.
Do the different algorithms also help obfuscate, like the way they're mentioning the linkability in the article? Obviously, if he's setting up all these tests, he would have to be doing it on, one algorithm, and you guys are running multiple algorithms. So
that's just for the proof of work, right?
Okay.
So that's only for the mining for the proof of work. And we had 2 reasons for that are pretty independent. One is we wanted to make mining accessible for different categories of users from a community perspective. We wanted to open up mining to more than just professional miners. The second one is we wanted to future-proof the coin. So if we do need to change our proof of work, because crypto systems get broken, then we have the technical flexibility to do so. And so we thought it was an important future-proofing point to be able to have control over time of what the proof of work mix is and have the technical ability to evolve it over time in response to changes in the marketplace, as opposed to just being committed to one single proof of work algorithm for the lifetime of the chain.
Hey, Todd, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Can you also educate us then on the addition of Dandelion and what's the other piece to the puzzle? It's like, I'm such a,
well, I mean, on Dandelion is a way for people to, Dandelion is a layer in front of Epic, really, right? So, and it's similar to like, I'm sorry?
CoinJoin was the other one that I was in my head.
Yeah, they're separate. So I'll talk about Dandelion first.
Great.
So Dandelion lets you submit your transactions, and then like different people cooperate to move it around, and like goes from one IP to the other. So it can't necessarily be tied to your IP before it's submitted in for inclusion. And that is a nice thing to have to make it a little harder to trace IPs. But as we know from the public security record, the intelligence services infiltrate these things all the time, certainly on Tor, right? Tor has a very similar design for very similar reasons. And we know that these things are infiltrated. And if you have people on the inside of the network, then they're the ones providing the anonymity, so they can certainly trace what you're doing. So I call it a weak guarantee. I don't think anyone should depend on it. Mm-hmm. But one of the research areas that we've poked at is extending transaction submission to going through multiple protocols, and try to open that up to give people more grounds for experimentation and being able to gateway different kinds of privacy layers into the network. And it's something we can do, and it's something we've taken a real look at doing. And if we have any enterprising volunteers out there who want to do it, they should pop up on the tech channel and stick their hand up, and we'll happily let them take a whack at it. I thought you were rewriting the chain in VB, man. Like, have you finished that one yet?
Yes.
I thought you mentioned the wallet, that those features were added in at the wallet level. Is the Epic wallet, how does it differ from the Vite wallet? Would the Vite wallet offer the same levels of security as your main wallet?
Well, Vite uses Epic, and then Vite interacts with the Epic network, and Vite takes Epic custody, and then Vite has a fairly traditional exchange style relationship with their users, where you have a wallet on their exchange.
Todd, I think he's talking about the functionality to do the Ninja style, if we want to do rings and accumulators and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, but I was building up to my answer, which is I haven't seen the inside of their tech, so I can't answer your question.
Yeah, no, the Vite wallet is for their chain, and where we're going, that's where we started. Where we're going is a little bit different, but in essence, I would make a more global point about, like, if really what you care about is an anonymity set, if you're one of 3 people using that network in your county, then it's a small group of people. Let's say you're somebody who who speaks a way that the powers that be don't like in your country, and you're inconvenient, and all that totalitarian stuff. Hiding in a big group is better than hiding in a small group. That's the idea of an anonymity set. The amount of sheer people that can use Epic and the uses that it can be for, because remember, Epic is not just a single asset layer like these other pure privacy, that's all they can do, one trick pony networks. That's all they can ever do, and the capacity is lower. Right now we're 20 transactions a second ish, and it's not full. When we get full, we're going to take that into hundreds and then thousands of transactions a second. And so, you can't determine the amounts. There's a variety of things that can be done trivially to impact linkability. I'll let Todd speak more about those, but I just reviewed the Ivan Bogatti article again, and we can speak to all of those points. But my main point is that if there's potentially billions of people that are going to be using this network, and these other ones are only going to be more niche phenomena rather. Well, if you're using a network whose only purpose is to transact, and overwhelmingly most people that use it for purposes that people would find unsavory, versus you're in a group of so what, I use the internet, so what, I use dollar bills, we all breathe air. I think just rationally we're going to be able to, we have the potential to service multiple orders of magnitude greater than these other approaches. And so on a technical level, if today, under certain assumptions and certain, starting places, that's why my initial defensiveness was around this idea of address, because for me, that kind of invalidates everything. But even if you accept that, it's just a matter of time before that single thing of, oh, this has a greater anonymity set really goes away. And the other, I can run sniffer nodes and do this and that. Sure. And here's the three, specific things that we know how to do, that when it makes sense to bother to do them, we will. But right now, 3 months ago, we were a few $1,000,000 and nobody cares. So we definitely do have a lead time. What are your thoughts, Todd?
Yeah, I'm an engineer, so to me, it really is a strongly separated set of concerns, right? You can put whatever anonymization layers you want in front, and then there's the function of the chain, right? And this is pretty generic to any chain, like because you're either processing blocks or you're just forwarding them, and so there's always going to be some point at which the chains actually enter the system. And before that point, anybody can put in whichever anonymization layers they want to have. And our hope is just to be maximally flexible in terms of letting people experiment and plug in whichever anonymization layers they like to obscure the flow of the blocks. The bigger advantage that we have is, even if you can see the transaction flow, you can't see the amounts, right? And so if you are building transaction networks that create big anonymization pools in the call chain in the ledger, then you're good, right? You're good even without the anonymization, because the amounts are truly opaque because of the power of Mimblewimble. And that's why I just don't feel, anonymization is nice, but the real anonymity comes from the fact that Mimblewimble hides the quantities, right?
So you've got two basic approaches, as I understand it, Todd, that all this other pre-Mimblewimble was aimed at defeating. You've got amount analysis, and then you've got timing analysis. I guess pre-Dandelion, which I understand Monero just implemented fairly recently. Then you can do something against the Dandelion or against the geographic. So would it be fair to say that because of the true transparent, or the true blindedness, I guess there's probably a better word, but I'll go with that one, of the amounts, that all of a large amount of the techniques that you would need to worry about if you didn't have that, say Zero Coin or some of these earlier ones, aren't an issue, and therefore that entire class of attacks isn't valid, and therefore you don't need to worry about it? Am I getting all that right?
I mean, a big part of why anonymity is so important in the pre-Mimblewimble privacy protocols is that they're imperfect at hiding the information, right? And so you really need the anonymity layer in order to reach the secrecy about the individual amounts. With Mimblewimble, that's not a concern, right? And so again, that's a good example of the kind of complexity that Mimblewimble just makes unnecessary, right? It's not a superior solution to the problem. It makes the problem disappear altogether. It makes the problem obsolete.
And I would also add that it also reduces the scope of potential future problems, because as I understand it, Zcash, in order to make sure that it doesn't get exploited, you give up some privacy on the turnstile and some like base layer observability, but it's not even encrypted by default. So there's that. But what was the other thing I was going to say? Yeah, the other thing is, if there really is some specific use case for a different way of achieving privacy under certain circumstances, basically you've got Zcash, Halo 2, you've got Lelantis Spark, and then you've got Monero's Seraphis, and we can keep an eye on all of those. And if it turns out that there's some weird little, niche where those are needed and it makes sense, great, open source, thank you. We'll plug that in over here. Beam already has Lelantis attached to their Mimblewimble, and so that there's no technical blocker. It's just a matter of will. And so I would say that anything that any architecture has to offer, the way we've set ours up is that we can plug it in. And in the meantime, we don't suffer the downsides of having hyper optimized for this one thing and painted ourselves in a corner on all these other areas. I mean, I'm not familiar with any.
If there's one thing Max doesn't lack, it's will.
or perseverance. I heard that thing from two years ago, and I'm like, God, I'm getting old. We've gotten done like 1% of what I wished back then.
You're mentioning Lelantis, and that's actually been praised by the people that are developing Monero. It comes from Zcoin, which is now called Firo. I think a guy named Ruben Yap.
He's great. Ruben's great.
That. Are you guys looking at adding Lelantis? Or?
So that's why I mentioned it when I said Lelantis Spark. That's what Firo calls it. Ruben has been very helpful, and there's a lot of overlap. Or for years, I should add, there's a lot of overlap between.
Didn't I connect you with him? Because I know I interviewed him and you at right about the same time.
I met him in DEF CON in what would that be, July 2019. It was Monero Village at DEF CON.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I don't know, but you've definitely done your part for the cause. I want to call you, we call you Dan Freeman around here, even if you don't go by that online.
Yeah, my name is actually Dan Sessoms, but early on when we were on the radio, I think we had some stalkers coming to the radio station and like leaving weird things on my vehicle. So I just kind of changed it.
Yeah,
Dan, did I answer?
I was born.
Can I be? I just want to insert myself in here and talk about something that's on my mind, because I'm hearing about all of this. The private trying to service. I don't know what percentage of the world. I mean, I take privacy very seriously, and I love Mimblewimble, love Pirate Chain, love Monero, and appreciate them all. I love privacy coins, but at some level, to be able to do everything, I'm just going to talk about Monero, to be able to do everything they do, then all of that information is still within the blocks, I believe, but it's obfuscated, right? So the shell game, but that is such a giant block size then that there is no way that anybody, if you want to look in the future and have mobile mining, like we're going to have mobile mining, you just can't hold that giant blockchain on your mobile phone. So at what level do you look at the attributes, the positive attributes of an Epic Cash that is not trying to be just a privacy coin, but is trying to be a coin that has great utility, that is a currency. And so you may give up, I don't even know if we're giving up anything, but I think that the people, and this may not, there may be people out there that'll this may come back and haunt me, but I think the people that are so hyper concerned, ultra concerned about the privacy in comparison to all of the positive attributes that I believe we will achieve, Epic Cash will achieve, yet still having our transactions being surveillance proof. I mean, I don't know what more you need. How much more do you need than Mimblewimble? Really? Todd, do you want to?
Well, and I think this goes to something that both Dan and Max raised, which is, Elon Musk talks about this in rocketry, the exponential cost of mass, right? Let's say you're adding a kilogram to the weight of your airframe, okay? we've got that extra kilogram, but then it needs extra reinforcement because the oscillations are doing more damage. So that's extra weight. And then that's more weight to orbit. So you need more fuel, and that's more weight. And then you're imposing more load on the engines. The engines need to be scaled up, and that's more weight, right? And so you have this cascade as you go. And in software, the analogy is complexity, right? And when you have these complicated solutions to try to get to privacy, it's not just the direct cost in terms of computation and size of the 17 different privacy steps, right? It's also the complexity in the code base. It's the scope for extra bugs. It's the maintenance overhead and the slowing down of innovation. It's the computational cost and then on the clients and the load onto the network. And then it's the things you have to do to manage all of this load, where it becomes so expensive to run that you've got to start putting layers on top of that in order to free people from the load. Eventually, it just tips over. And this is why I so deeply prefer a 3-page Mimblewimble solution to a 120-page ZK Snark solution. I can trust it. I know the cost. It's a small and global solution to the problem. And that's why I have such confidence saying it's just superior, right? It's not just that it achieves the same goal and does it better, although it does achieve the same goal and it does do it better, right? But it's not just that. It's a simple and global solution to the problem. And the fact that it's so simple means that we can rely on it as engineers. We can have confidence in our understanding. I've read the ZK Snark white paper several times. I'm not confident that I could go up to a whiteboard and with totality explain all of the pieces of it to you. Certainly not without notes, right? That has a cost. That has many costs, right? And this is where my confidence comes from in saying that Mimblewimble just makes them obsolete. There's no reason to deal with a 120-page solution when you have a 3-page solution that's both simpler, more global, and better. There's just no reason to do it.
Hey, Todd, isn't there, I believe that there's been an issue with, I know the folks from TCV were calling for an audit of the pirate chain code, but the issue really became, and I may have this totally wrong, that it's hard to get an audit because who's going to do the effective audit? Because it's so complicated and it's like,
what question are you posing to the auditors? What question are the auditors answering?
Well, and also we can point to actual history. There was an undiscovered bug in Zcash, despite peer review and multiple audits, that was missed for 2 years. They claim it wasn't exploited. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was. Who knows? But the fact is that it was missed, despite all the smartest guys in the world looking at it, because there's only like a handful of people that are smart enough to understand that. And so who knows? What may lurk there in the future. And also attracting the engineers to work on the code base.
Wasn't that exposed? That bug was exposed by Duke, wasn't it? From Hush.
Oh, that's ironic.
Yeah, he wrote.
Good for him.
Yeah.
In a world where Windows and Linux both have major security flaws disclosed every year, what is it that we think a code audit is going to do?
It costs a lot of money. I know that. I know I read that. The guys from TCV actually sent me the code audit for Pirate, because I was like, we were arguing over Epic basically, and it got quite heated. I pretty much told them to just kick rocks, and so then they started talking about Pirate, and I'm like, well, there are a lot of flaws in Pirate, and then he throws the audit at me, and it's only a partial audit, and it's about the wallet. They still need, if you read the article, it says, we've got a long ways to go. We need to raise another $145,000 so that we can pay for the full audit. So,
right.
It's not even a full audit. So there were throwing at me, look here, it's Pirate. It's great. They got an audit. Like, no, you read it. It's just partial.
Well,
and I think since ultimately people that are invested in these networks generally do so with the expectation of let's just say earning money, or more technically increasing in purchasing power. And so right now today, Epic is well south of 100 million market cap, depending on the number, let's call it 60-ish million, something like that, maybe even less. And Pirate, I think, is 240. So, the market, the potential addressable market of that is lower. And just because our tech can do more scalable, more users, all this good stuff. So, you're starting out with a higher price point and less addressable market. That's no good for investment. But when you get into Zcash, which is abandoning proof of work to go to proof of stake, and nobody serious that I know that knows a thing or two about privacy actually trusts it, which is another major thing, is $2 billion. And then you've got Monero at around 3.5 or 4 billion. And so if our addressable market is greater, and it is, and our value is much less than it is, then you've got a multiplier effect. And so I think I would encourage everyone listening to review the history of what those guys are saying about us and about what they're promoting, and then look at what has happened and ask yourself, what is likely to continue to happen here? Because, not to throw shade on anybody, but you lost 95% of your BTC value versus sitting in HODL in the number one coin in Monero since January of 2018. You've lost about 90% of your money in dollar and BTC terms in the past 4, 5, 6, 7 months in Pirate's case. And we've done fairly well. We haven't spent $1 on marketing. We didn't engage people to go do promotions. We invested in the right tech stuff up front. So we've got, solid. We're not asking for people for donations, or saying, look at our audit. It covers this, corner over here and ignores the other part. I think we've got an honest value proposition. And at this point, we've earned the right to not have to endure this type of stuff from any parties, because, it's coming with an agenda.
What if we think it's funny? If we think it's funny, can we opt in? Like, just for the lulz? Can we make this optional? Because I think it's great. I think it's hilarious. Like guys with a C++ code base lecturing us in Rust about system security. It's like, well done, gentlemen. I got to pay a lot of money for a streaming service to find comedy that good, man. Like, keep it coming. Guys.
I have some comedy this morning. So when I had my issue with TCV, they both TCV and TDV, they excommunicated me, made me a non-member, kicked me out, and they gave me every penny back. I mean, every penny, which was probably a smart decision. But then this morning I get this email from Jeff Berwick that's a Dollar Vigilante saying that, hey, we're good news. We're down 15% in our subscription base. So that's going to be good for you because we're going to lower the price to be a member. And I responded back, I'm like, you kicked me out at the full price. I can't be a member. So can you maybe please take me off of your list?
Wait, are you dollar cost averaging your Crypto Vigilante subscription, man? Like, are you actively trading this thing?
Oh, I went all in on Epic with that refund. and I'm up like 18x.
Well, and like, here's the thing. Anyone who takes an audit of a C++ code base and says, look, this is why we're more secure than that Rust code base, has clearly never written a line of C++ in their life. Right? It's just delusional. But that's crypto. It's good for the laughs, right?
Yeah. I think all of this, Dan, my personal opinion is that I really think all of the dissension, and sorry, I just think it comes from the Crypto Vigilante community or the leadership over there. And when everything happened with Darrow, and I went on air to be able to just say, hold on, wait a minute, what happened here? And then that just kind of started the shitstorm because I called out a pump and dump. And, ever since then, just because of my affinity Epic Cash, and it was just because Max was so gracious with his time and I started covering it, but it was coincidental. If it was a coin named, Sunburst that I was following, they would be knocking the coin Sunburst all the time. It's just the fact that they don't like Epic Cash because it's threatening. It's threatening to them and it's not in their portfolio. So they come out with this nonsense of, let's remember that Epic Trash is nowhere near as fungible as Mimblewimble.
That comes from a couple of people inside of TCV. That's not Jeff's view at all. And, he allows Josh to continue to talk about Epic on the Dollar Vigilante where his articles actually appeared. So, okay. I had dinner with Jeff last night and stuff. I was hanging out with him last night at a party. So I know the inner workings. A lot of what he says it's the advice of those guys, and he doesn't study the tech. He just walks around with his dog and talks about what these other guys tell him to do.
So why don't we educate him? If he's
hey, speaking of education,
let's teach him.
Okay. Speaking of education, Dan, have we answered all your questions? Like, what else can we tell you, man? What do you want to know?
Tell me more about what was it, Epic Fund Me, and some of the other offshoots that you guys are doing. And one other thing, I think that these privacy coins would be a really good platform for messaging. Like, we're looking at Telegram and Signal, and they all have central servers. Do you guys have message fields within Epic? Zcash does, or?
Yeah, so not to get too far ahead of our skis, but we've started to show a little of what is to come on that. So I will say, yes, we too see huge potential in encrypted messaging. If you notice on Telegram, which is where we spend a lot of time, increasingly messages and channels will say this content cannot be displayed on apps that are downloaded from the Apple store and the Google store. Now, that's not Telegram's fault. They can't do anything about it. Like basically Apple and Google wrap their app in other stuff, and then who knows what might be there in Telegram and stuff. So, you get into like private from whom, under which assumptions, and how determined an adversary type of stuff. And so without getting into debating how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, ultimately, just like shares and tokens are merging, money and data are merging. Sometimes, the message is about money. Sometimes the money itself is a message. And so right now we're about to upgrade to the third version of our protocol. It's called Stratus. We have a cloud motif. And so E3 Stratus does not have any of that. But if you look further into the future, we not only plug Epic in to the capabilities of other chains, Vite we know and love, and there's a lot to work with there. But bridging out to these other chains, we kind of get to that same place through multiple paths. And so I think ultimately what we end up having is that we read Bitcoin as the first line, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. It's about sending messages that just happen to be transfer of payment, related, but there's no reason that other forms of communication can't and shouldn't ride alongside that. A lot of times the information about the order is as valuable as the order itself. If you look at the economics of PayPal and Visa and Square and Stripe and all these data analytics companies. And so as we put the user back in charge on that key point of the spear of where the most important part of our social interactions happen, which is where the money changes hands, then you've got the receipt, you've got the record keeping, you've got the rewards plan and the frequent flyer miles and the tell a friend and, the regulatory and the recycling fee and all this other stuff that can come along along with it. And so it'll take us a while to get there. But yeah, absolutely, we will. Sorry, I'll let you get a word in edgewise. Yeah.
So that I just want to ask the question again. Can we send private messages with an Epic Cash transaction? I presume the answer is yes in those notes.
Well, that's a good question, because what I was talking about is notes that would be able to link into other systems. Imagine IPFS locator or torrent hash or things like that. But I believe we do have a limited message capacity between the parties.
It's not really functional right now. It's not easy.
But we can expose it, right? We just have to unblock that. Isn't there a certain field in there that we left?
I
don't know.
I'd rather say no.
Yeah.
Eeyore steps up and says no.
Yeah,
let's just keep it at no and tell people it's the future when it's probably.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you mentioned that, Dan. We've got a governance channel or group. There's about 60 in there right now. Everybody's welcome to join. Just ask any admin for the link. And that type of stuff, when that different functionality comes out at which points in our evolution is highly mutable, and your insight as to maybe you see opportunities that should be more front and center that we haven't been focusing on. So I know I'm definitely interested in hearing more about that. We can link up after the show and you can tell me.
What else, Dan? While we have Mr. Lewis on here.
Last year we were talking about Epic Fund Me. How is that going? And
Max.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to sneak off to grab a drink, but I'll do that after. Yeah, so Epic Fund Me, Yoga Dude put that together. We're not monolithic. Right now, there's about 200 independent community contributor volunteers, including those of us on this call, that are working 70 countries-ish, incidentally. And so it's not as if there's some headquarters that executed an objective on the to-do list, and we put this website together and now we're running it. Yoga Dude worked with somebody to knock together a proof of concept site, really just as a demo of, okay, there's people within our community that want to raise funds to go do something. The Bitmart listing is a great example. That was achieved through this. Some people have fled tyranny in Australia, relocating to Mexico, fleeing health mandate tyranny in New York, New Jersey. And so it kind of took on a life of its own. We're looking forward to a new version with lots of new functionality, but kind of almost by surprise, there's over 250 people that have raised money for their cause. All the payments go direct. It's more like a directory of just, here's my wallet info. If you want to help me do this, you can pay me here. And it's really effective. We don't have any volume statistics. We probably should try to gather some, but just anecdotally, I know there's been at least hundreds of thousands, if not even millions, of things with real impact, and it really shows the utility of what's possible when you can take that price down to zero or near enough zero, and make it easy enough to use where people can actually jump through all the hoops to do it. So we have a lot of work to do, but it's a promising first step for sure.
Yeah, and Epic Fund Me is, what's cool about it is it's just all based on merit. You go in there, you set it up, you make your case. I went in there when I learned about it to go through the process and just announced the Uncle Vigilante Cigar Fund, and that told them who I am, where they can find me, that I cover Epic Cash, and I will say before I tell you the number that I subsequently gave it all away, but literally within a day of setting that up, I had over 1,000 Epic. Now that was back when the price was lower, but that was pretty astonishing to me. you know, and then it just became a fun pay it forward type thing to look at other projects within Epic Fund was what I did. And just like, you know, putting 100 here and 100 there and 50 there and whatnot. So it's just really cool because you get to see such a diverse group of people who all are going through their own trials and tribulations, or are all putting their sweat equity behind different things that are helping our overall community, and, you know, just hope that somebody might notice. So that is a cool platform. Go Yoga.
Yeah, and there's another one coming. There's various offshoots and spin-offs and derivatives building off of that same successful. We do a lot of Pathfinder missions and learn on a small scale. You know, fail fast, but succeed iteratively over time. And so I just pulled up the draft materials for a website coming called Epic Impact. And the idea there is that we want to empower direct P2P philanthropy. One of the major things that clued us into the opportunity that something like Epic would be valuable was I was engaged with a philanthropy group, an impact group of investors, and I heard a presentation in 2019. The numbers are this: Americans gave $460 billion in charitable contributions in 2020, and the admitted figure is that only 63 cents on the dollar supposedly reaches the people, because the cost of administration and payment processing and all those intermediaries, there's a lot of friction, and it's also opaque and it's also slow. So there's an earthquake in Haiti, people donate $10 billion to the Red Cross, and then there's an audit report that comes out 5 years later that says, hey, we built 80 homes and the rest was stolen. You know, like that stuff happens, and those people need it then, not you know, 5 years later after the private jet, you know, goes for the photo op. And so Epic Impact, what is happening right now using the Epic blockchain, increasingly every day, it doesn't matter that the coin is only worth $5, because you can send any amount of them from a small amount to a large amount, and they do have a value with exchangeability out, you know, where people will transact with you at some rate. And so right now we've got education projects in Ecuador in the Quechua language, Zambia in Chua, and some other languages. Environmental remediation, litter, beach cleanup in North Florida, masks in certain places. These are all through partners that we found that are like-minded, and we help set them up with wallets and link them into our network and so on. Ocean plastic, Calle Ocho here in Miami, where I'm based. Fundación para la Asistencia Educativa in Mexico City. I butchered that. Impact Network over in Zambia, as I mentioned. The Safe Home Foundation, which does a no-kill animal shelter in 1,000 Indian cities. Danny, your orphanage there in Acapulco, which is, I know, near and dear to your heart. People that are planting fruit trees and other reforestation type projects. And that's really just the beginning. Because
these are the things, this is basically how you and I got connected, because Bill Klein recommended that I talk to you. And I guess the other guys on the line probably don't know about all the other stuff. Like, I rebuilt houses and stuff here in Mexico, and 100% of everything that came in went to that. Yeah, whether buying the materials and everything. I built 4 houses and a community center in Puebla using Dash. So we were sponsored by Dash, and the community got together with their masternode system, voted that we should be doing this, and that's what we did. Originally, it started with Hurricane Harvey in Texas, and Bill Klein was the biggest donor in that, and we ended up there for a month helping. I think we had 30,000 something care packages that went out, and we got a boat and pulled people out of the water. I mean, it was just this nonstop going from disaster to disaster, just helping people with crypto, and every bit of it went to what we were doing. So
that is so cool.
Yeah.
Good on you. And by the way, Dan, thank you for making me aware that I mean, I love Jeff Berwick. I mean, like everyone else, I look forward to every one of his walks. I listen to every single one of them. And I mean, that's how I got to know the Crypto Vigilante is Jeff Berwick gave me a shout out just saying, hey, I like this old guy who talks about, crypto from a newbie's perspective. So please share that I do.
I mean, he was like, why, what's wrong with Epic? Why can't you use that? So basically, I think last year, whatever, we had a sponsor that was basically reusing the Dollar Vigilante's newspaper or whatever, news article, news release, whatever, and branding it as their own. And so that was a little bit scammy, and they wanted to make sure that we didn't end up with someone else like that again. So Jeff asked that the Crypto Vigilante vet who the sponsors would be. And I was given control over the crypto part of this conference, and they started telling me what to do. So I went ape shit on them and, basically told them, it's not negotiable. Fuck you. Epic Cash is a sponsor. If they want to be a sponsor, kick rocks. So, and Jeff agreed. Catherine backed me on it, and that's how it's going to be. Hopefully we will have Epic Cash there again. I mean, they were there last year.
Well, what's funny? What's funny? What's funny?
And Pirate didn't.
if I can just share, I believe that last year, because I remember Raphael knocked us for not participating in that. And yet Max chose, you can tell the story, Max, you chose to go, instead of having a big booth and saying, hey, we're Epic Cash, didn't you send everything to the orphanage?
I don't know what went where, but we were trying to put a round peg in a square hole because they said, buy this sponsorship. And I said, well, you guys have been trashing us. Like, hopefully if, basically like, if we pay, will you stop? Okay, we pay, but we don't want a sponsorship and we really want this to go over here, and so we were kind of trying to thread the needle, and we ended up getting the worst of all worlds. Like,
it was also that you had somebody else that was trying to build some bridge in an exchange or something, and you didn't want the name to be scary, so you actually just sponsored the crypto show to talk about Epic Cash and that, and then we did the things with the orphanage as well. So all of my talks, which were an hour each day throughout the conference, were sponsored by Epic Cash, and then we talked about it as much as we could and tried to do some good stuff with it. So there were people, I'm sure, that were listening, and hopefully they were the ones that got in on it and have 10x since then.
I tell my favorite Jeff Berwick story.
100x. Please, Todd.
After he finally got his citizenship in the Dominican Republic, he said that someone mailed him saying, how could you be in such a place? It's so dangerous with street crime and whatnot. And he said, let's think about that. If I'm walking down the street in the Dominican Republic, someone might come up to me with a gun and demand that I give them the $200 that's in my wallet. But by contrast, I used to live in a country north of the United States where men with guns would take 50% of every paycheck. And I got to tell you, I consider the Dominican Republic significantly superior in this regard.
That's awesome.
That would have stuck with me. I just love that one to pieces.
No matter what the conflict is on the personalities or whatever you think, it's not really about TCV or Jeff or any of that. It's the fact that Anarchapulco, the people that attend and who would be interested in what you have are here. This is the community that has interest in privacy and freedom, So forget.
And has invited Ron Paul from the beginning and never blacklisted him, and God bless him for it.
Ron Paul is supposed to be coming back. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but I think he's coming back this year.
Wow.
So Mike Mobola from our team has offered to go down. I know you guys have linked up, so we'll get him officially on the agenda. But now that we have the time to do it right, I mean, we want to.
Let me go ahead and put this out. There's part of this when Mike comes and speaks. We also want to have a debate with whoever TCV can come and argue about Mimblewimble, and you could just put this to rest.
Todd, we need you to travel.
Me?
You got to go. I'll fund your airfare.
We'll see. Aqua was very far away, but maybe.
No, they're actually trying to invite this Ivan Bogota or whatever and have him do it. But if not, whoever it is that they have to argue about Mimblewimble, if you have somebody on the other side, we can have that debate and put it to rest.
Yeah, can we do it remote?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, it would be better live, but we could do it remote.
Yeah,
we need. It's live on stage that we would be doing it, and if it's remote, then you have one person in latency and all that.
Todd, it's got to be Todd,
Mike,
and he has to be
remote. If you have Mike there, if Mike is there, and you can just verse him in it. If he can make the argument.
No, because it's going to be somebody that needs to be, an expert in the tech, and that's Todd. So, if maybe it's not like a debate, maybe it's like a panel thing about the various aspects of it. We're actually so there's two conferences, April 6th to 9th. A shout out for Epicentral 422 in Miami, coincident with Bitcoin 2022, where we'll also be speaking. Incidentally, that ought to be fun. And then at Monerotopia, where we'll also be participating with a number of talks. And so I think the depth of the interest in privacy, specifically and freedom more generally, the impact of what we're doing on our prospects for liberty, maybe we can think about the opportunity that's there. I know it's a full day, and maybe there's multiple parts that we could do and have different people speak. So we'll put our best foot forward. We've been trying to create olive branches since the beginning. Quick side note, I didn't know what to think, because when we launched, we also sponsored, what was it, Anarcho Vegas before launch, trying to build connections. And I met with Jeff there, and I told him all about it. And, then nothing happened from there. And then these guys are trash. And so hands off
one way or the other, I'm sure we can find some Mimblewimble expert to go.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll figure it out. But the key takeaway there is, we're lovers, not fighters. And we want to be friends with everybody. And what we're going to be talking about in April is the EDEX Atomic, which has Monero as the key pair into the other pairs. So we're starting with the Big Daddy, and Pirate Chain is second. And so if you want to do P2P atomic swap, non-custodially, privacy preserving, that'll be the best game in town. And so we want to be allies and resources to our fellow privacy brothers, because it's not a zero-sum game.
Yeah, that is a great idea. And, that's something I told you first off in some of the meetings that we had, is like, I think it's a really good idea not to bash any other coins. I mean, aside from Ripple, fuck those guys. But, but I mean, like, in privacy, when we're talking privacy coins, that's the community. So if you're like bashing Pirate or whatever, I mean, I don't like some things about Pirate myself, just that in their marketing, but their community, it's pretty cool. Zcash, all of the different privacy.
Well, and if I can
be bashing them or anybody else, because those
if I can riff on that, I mean, I'm not bashful about saying I think Mimblewimble makes some of those earlier protocols obsolete. Yeah. That doesn't mean that they're not awesome, and they still made the world a better place, and it's still good people working on them and driving these ideas forward. And we're very happy that they're there, because we wouldn't be anywhere near where we are without them. Right. So
and Dan, I just want to say, as far as bashing, I mean, I was right with everybody, with R and with Monero. And then when I started getting educated in Epic Cash, I just personally, all I have ever committed to is on my channel is that I'm going to share my journey. So I just started pivoting my holdings into Epic Cash and talked about it. But at not one time have I ever bashed Pirate or R. The only thing that I have done was stuck up for the TCV newbies who were getting trashed after that Darrow pick, and then
I don't even know what was the Darrow. What happened with Darrow? I don't pay attention to that.
Basically, they have their pick that they come out with once a quarter.
Yeah,
and they already talked about Darrow like in February, where people had acquired it, and then they knew they were going to pick Darrow for their pick. And so you can just see the charts and stuff of the acquisition. And then what happened is for 3 weeks, Jeff was talking about the pick and saying things like, hey, remember, if you want to be like those who succeeded with Pirate, those who act first profit most. And so what happened is all of us newbies are there just hanging on, when are they going to release it? When they released it, we all bought Darrow like crazy, but we bought into their sell wall. And it was the biggest pump and dump that you've ever seen. And it was like I literally had 2 Bitcoin of value. By the time it transacted, it was 1 Bitcoin worth of value in Darrow. And I was like, what the hell happened? And that happened to so many people. And then when you went in there to the chat saying what the hell happened, you had Raphael laughing at the newbies saying, you should have read the report. Nobody ever does that. Nobody should buy until you do your own work. But that was not the 3-week build. Go ahead.
I think as you guys were talking, I was reflecting on this and maybe just figured it out. Okay, why are we not in the portfolio? You know, what are these things is not like the others? Based on the information you just gave, the additional puzzle pieces, Dan. So I think if you look at where other assets are in their life cycle and how their emission curve is designed, we've got that emission that's very close to the Bitcoin standard of 21 million and the halvings and stuff. We put a ton of thought. Todd, success has many fathers, but the daddy of the emission was Todd, and he made it beautiful from 16 to 8 to 4 to 1 to 0.15625. And I think just the pumpamentals of Epic are more geared for a slow burn. And maybe it's not a never, it's just a not yet. If you have something that's already 90 or 95% emitted, and or it's only ASIC mineable, and or it's only one of these other things, I think maybe it's just we got the balancing act of wide distribution and mineability right, and we're more resistant to the whale game type stuff that the industry thrives on. Incidentally, that's made it really difficult to attract coverage. If any of the people listening have a relationship with any content creators, for every person like Dan that was willing to give us the time of day, there were hundreds that say, sure, my price is X and come on. And so since we've had a firm, we don't pay for play type of policy, we're relatively unknown. And so if you want to have Epic be heard about more widely, I and many others, of course, are willing to go out there and spread the word. And we're willing to put in the effort, and increasingly, there is economic opportunity there through Epic Fund Me and through the DAO Treasury and other things to do different things that we historically haven't. So this is an appeal, as I always do, for the community for help on that.
And I have to share one comment with you guys. Ryan. So Todd, your son walked in the room, and Ryan says, guaranteed Todd's son is already smarter than me.
Well, he just walked in and shot me with his Nerf gun. So I don't know about smarter, but he's a better shot than his old man. So there's that.
That's great. So Dan, is there I know you're going to send me a link. Can you just share with everyone a little bit about your orphanage?
Yeah, so it's the Marsh Children's Home here in Boneville. The woman that runs the orphanage was an orphan herself, and her parents were killed, I think, at one point by the military, and she ended up going to the orphanage, and then later on running the orphanage. And they've had that building. It was donated by the 100% Natural Restaurants here in Acapulco 32 years ago, and so they've had it since then. There's generally between 60 and 75 kids there at the orphanage, and they're some of the brightest, most well-adjusted kids you'll ever see. I go there and hang out all the time. Like I've been going there every morning this week and taking groups of like 10 to 12 kids out to go swimming on the beach, because they don't have supervision to go out there. So they're right on the beach, and they never get to play on the beach. So I just go over there and make that happen for them. But I see a lot of people, because I spent all Christmas and this whole week there, see these people coming in, and they'll bring stuff, and they look at the kids like, oh, those poor kids. And then they have their kids with them, and I'm like, yeah, look at those poor kids. They probably got a couple of parents that work their ass off, and they're never home, and they're just glued to a screen and have no family whatsoever. While here you have 60 kids. Is like the most well-oiled machine and family unit that you've ever seen.
Really? Well, have you? I know you brought. We talked about Epic Fund Me, but have you actually put anything up at Epic Fund Me for this? If you did,
I think we did. I think we did in the beginning. I don't know if it is, but we did the trampolines and stuff like that, and but a bunch of food and stuff, and brought that in last year. Well, and then through this conference, so through Acapulco, my girlfriend spent 2 weeks teaching those kids hula hoops, and then we did a stage act where all the kids came and they did these hula hoop tricks to music, and we raised $20,000 from that.
Wow. That's fantastic.
And we've got the webpage up here. It's marshchildrenshome.org.mx.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I dropped that in the chat.
And then the guy, I think his name is Chad. They're building an Earthship at the place where we're going to have the event. And he started it last year, and it's finished now, and very close to being finished. And I'm going to go stay a couple of nights in it anyway. So all the money from renting it on Airbnb goes directly to the orphanage. So it's like, perfect. I think it's like right now it's like 500 pesos a night or something, but it's going to be, once it's completed, it's going to be like 1,500 pesos a night. So that money would go directly to the orphanage. And yesterday I sat with him while he was teaching the kids English, and he knows very little Spanish at all, but the techniques that he was using were were pretty amazing. I was like, wow.
Who was using?
When I looked at his Earthship last year, I thought it was never going to happen. This guy's full of crap. Yeah, it's just another guy talking. And no, they got it done.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and he's still here, like I said, teaching them English.
Send him our way, because we have something coming called Hayek Academy, geared specifically for kids. Increasingly, Epic has enough of a value where even a fraction of a coin, like imagine when you're 18 and it pays for college, that kind of thing. I mean, we're all about driving the growth every way we can. And so somebody like that, definitely just set up a 3-way chat with me, and we'll plug them in, show them some love. And anybody like that doing that type of work, we want to have those types of conversations. We're about merit and proof of work, and ultimately these are systems for us as humans. We're the owner operator contributors of them, so please, we're especially receptive to people like that. I got a jet here, gents, so this has been lovely. I will sign off here. Take care.
All right, thanks, Max. Thanks, Max. I think we're good here. I really appreciate you coming on, Dan, and I hope
no problem.
I hope I answered all your questions about Mimblewimble. I know Todd was kind of just listening in, but
yeah, I mean, I didn't really, not that I really had any, but I know that these articles have been passed around, because every time I mentioned it to TCV, they would throw those articles at me, and I'm like, yeah, and they tell me the same thing. Didn't you read our paper? And look, like a guy asked me to, well, you can start reading back from 2019. I'm like, man, I don't even read your newspaper. I'm definitely not going back to 2019 reading all this crap. So,
well, I just to me, and I'll just say it. It's like I don't start these things, but I'm not afraid of them, and I will finish them. But I submit it's just they on the TCV side, their ego getting in their own way for whatever reason. At this point in time, they cannot release this ire of Epic Cash or me or whatever. I don't know. But
well, I mean, like I said, when I meant earlier by bashing, I actually wasn't referring to you or Epic Cash. They are bashing, like the TCV is bashing.
Oh,
Epic.
thank you.
And with putting all that out there, telling you it's Epic trash and all that. But I think that you should take the high road, ignore them, and just prove them wrong and let them, look.
Do you know every Friday we do Epic Cash Live, and we have been comparing Epic Cash to the top 15 coins from September 3rd. And when you look at the chart, I don't know if you've seen it, but Enrique does a great job. That chart shows as of the last one we did, we were like up 1800%, and Bitcoin was like maybe up 10%. Anyway, if you had $1,000 invested on September 3rd in Epic Cash, the last time we did the show, it would be like $18,000 net. And then the second best would be Luna, and they were up like you would have like $1,700. So go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say before I forget, while we have Todd on the line still,
Sure.
I would like to ask about the hack. I know you guys handled it pretty damn good. Can you explain what happened?
Oh, good question.
With that hack. Yeah, I mean, that's another elephant in the room. So let's hear that. Can you explain
what
happened?
I cannot, because it's technical and I haven't looked at it in 6 months. I'll be honest with you. So if you want to come back on, I can review it and make sure I'm not going to feed you a line of half-remembered BS and give you an actual explanation. But I'd rather not. I'd rather not mess.
So you don't. I mean, I know it was the Grin code that was from, because didn't the same bug happen to Grin?
Yeah, it was the same bug, right?
So it was within Mimblewimble.
It was in the implementation. It's not a flaw in the Mimblewimble algorithm. It was a bug in the code.
Okay.
So, and we fixed it, and we went on with life. But I haven't looked at the fix in many months, so I'd be afraid to speak to it and get it wrong.
All right.
Yeah. So Dan, just to finish my story, what we started doing about a month ago was not bashing Crypto Vigilante, but we pulled the chart based upon their portfolio. And we showed if they just would have invested 10% in, 10% in Epic Cash as part of their portfolio, it's literally the difference of them being down like 19%, or being up with just 10%, 119%. And so it's just, that's where I think about all of their auto messages, where if somebody ever types in Epic Cash, they're either banned or they get the message about, let us remember what Mr. X said. So how many people, because I will tell you, since I started covering it, I was buying at 18 cents, and it's been up to 6.85, right? How many people didn't get the opportunity that I had because we were just bashed as this shitcoin Epic trash per their, per their messages. And that's where I think that they've done their subscribers a great disservice, frankly, because their egos have gotten in the way of actually, doing really, they say, do your own work. They could have done their own work on us. We could have them on the phone. I wouldn't need to be on any call. I mean,
if you're going to do your own work, what do you need a newsletter for?
Well, amen. See, that's the whole point. The other thing is, I think Epic, when it's almost like you're fighting human nature, right? When they have their own portfolio and they're heavily vested in Monero as their primary one, then it's kind of hard to, be an advocate for tech that may be better than your largest holding. And so I think there's that too. But
that's like, I don't do a lot of trading. I simply hold Bitcoin. That's I just go with Bitcoin. I've got other coins as well, but my main focus is on Bitcoin. I just keep it simple and don't worry about all the rest.
No, I like that, and that's my strategy too. I just invest in Bitcoin that was designed with 2019 tech.
Right.
Hey, Dan, it's been great. And I want to tell you, if you build up a new list of questions, get back on and we'll churn through them for you. All right.
All right, man. Yeah, no problem.
Far out.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you.
Uncle V, thanks as always, man.
You bet. Next time, do me a solid and wear a shirt we can talk about.
I'll work on it. I promise.
Geez,
okay.
I'm
like sorry.
Getting ready to go to church. Come on.
See you guys.
Hey, thanks everyone in the chat. Really appreciate you. And Dan, let's do this again.
All righty, man.
All right.
Have a good